Hello everybody and welcome back to Chariot series with this elf, Critical Rockets. Now we're having a look at the only gargoyle at 80 ton. It's the Gargoyle H, or H as some would say. And this is a variant that has an Ultra 10, 2 ER medium lasers, an LRM 10 and one of those brand spanking shiny new heavy large lasers. And I wouldn't be remiss in saying that this is one of the single most painful experiences I've ever had in MechWarrior Online, and not because it's the Gargoyle. Anyway, the Gargoyle H, a underlooked mech, in my opinion, the Gargoyle. It sits in an unusual spot within MechWarrior Online. It's a mech that can have good builds, but it's generally overlooked for the fact that there are just superior models out there. I've never viewed it as a particularly bad mech, and as such, it was fun to come back to it. Unfortunately, in my attempts to get a half-decent recording of the poor Gargoyle H, this was the best of the bunch after about 2 hours of tries. You know when you see those threads on the MechWarrior Online forum of people saying like a 15 losing streak and stuff like that? Well, this was one of those nights. It's just, sometimes you get good games, and other times you just get bad ones. And it's not because of the variant, it's just a mixture of things really. Events can be running, which means certain builds are always in play, but I'm looking at my lance there. I'm in the assault lance, naturally. And 2 of my assault lance are LRM mechs, a Mauler and a Supernova, so we're already down 180 odd ton, trying to take the centre. But you know, damn it, we're going to do the best we can. But anyway, the mech, it's a bit of an all-rounder. Although it's supposed to be the variant that takes advantage of heavy laser technology, it only has a single heavy large laser and it doesn't even use 2 heavy mediums. Mainly because one of the biggest drawbacks of the Gargoyle in MechWarrior Online is the fact that it's, well, you know, sacrifices a lot of its tonnage for a pretty big engine for an assault mech. So it's fast, it's good. It was one of the main reasons the Gargoyle was quite scary when it first turned up in Battletech, was because here was an 80 ton assault mech that could basically sprint across a chunk of the field, and it wasn't like the Charger, which had virtually no weaponry, even with the 3K that had to sacrifice some of that to risk it running an XL engine. This thing doesn't have any worry about side torso explosion and can carry bigger, better guns. The Gargoyle is also one of those weird looking things, and there was, I remember when it first came out with PGI with the sort of the backers version of it, which is what I run. Not in this match, but I've got the Prime version, the Invasion Prime version that has the weird bit across the upper jaw that looks a bit like a strange mustache. They always said they were going to change it, they never did, like many things with PGI. They just either never had the resources or the interest in actually doing the things that they said they would do. So yeah, it's always remained a bit of a joke. And some people have shown us some really good builds on the Gargoyle. It just never competed, unfortunately. You know, things like the Marauder 2C came out, you've now got the Warhammer 2C. I mean, within the kind of 80 and 85 ton range, it's just not viable in poor MechWarrior Online without the ability to switch out the engine to try and make some better use of it like you can with a battle mech. Even the 75 ton that's like Nightgear, for instance, and the Timberwolf, they just surpass it. It's just more weapon availability, and you know, you can bring more firepower to the field and still have relatively decent protection in a 75 ton and even 85 ton than you can in this thing. So it sits in an awkward spot in MechWarrior Online. I still recommend people trying one out. See whether you like it. It's a fun mech. I don't mind it. This build is okay as well. It can get hot, but it's not one of those ones where it spikes the heat on you. It's a slow, gradual build, so you can be aware that you're reaching a sort of red line before you need to start backing off or changing anything like that. But it is also a mech that can suffer from the fact that it can suddenly seem quite frail. Again, the engine takes up a lot of that. So its original intended purpose with the mech is that it was supposed to use its speed to close quickly and do damage rapidly. It's the reason why the default build, the Prime for instance, is 2 SRM6, 2 LB5 and an ER small, because the idea was it ran up to like enemy mediums and smaller heavies and just alpha striked every single time, because it would barely reach a heat spike, and it didn't need to stay on the field long to make sure it could rack up a couple of kills or at least a couple of crippling hits and then it could just leave the field and get resupplied, and then come back again. That was one of the most dangerous things about the Gargoyle, and the fact that it was one of those mechs that it looked like it was a good distance away, and then it could just run across the field and suddenly be on your flank or right up in your face, and that's where it's most deadly. This version of it, the hotel model, seems to be a bit more of a kind of all-round spread. You know, it can engage at medium, it can fight at long, and if it needs to in short, it's got its Ultra 10 and the 2ER mediums if it wants to really sort of start tearing stuff up. And you can get about 2 tons of ammo in the Ultra 10, and I think you only need like 1 ton in the LRM 10 because you're not really a missile boat anyway. So yeah, I'd recommend it. The match was strange, I've got to say. Like I mentioned that the Mauler and the Supernova were over there on its own, and then you know earlier on I looked across the field and there was an Annihilator and a Direwolf just sat across the field at an opposite spot. It was such a strange match, I have to admit. I kept this one because there was some odd stuff. I did decent damage as well, which is better than I could say for a lot of the other matches I tried to record in the Gargoyle. It just did not go well. I think this is my grand last charge. As I think one of their assaults had, I think it's their LRM boat, Supernova, has come over, and yeah, there we go, I managed to get it, and not long after that I'm a dead man, I believe. Yeah, there we go. Bloody light mech with heavy lasers or something hiding out in the distance. And now we just have the hilarity of the LRM boat Supernova. See, this is why I tend to agree with some people that just whacking missiles in an assault mech is not a good idea. It's just not the best way of going about it. It's I know some people specifically hate the Atlas LRM boat, the creeping death that just sits at the back of the team, just spamming like LRM 5s or LRM 15s or something, and then never uses its weight and its hit points to get in there and sort of help the team by spreading damage. This is kind of what the Supernova did. Didn't do much, sat there for the whole match, and then obviously ends up being the last poor bastard there, and he doesn't stand a chance. He just gets picked apart. I kept it for that reason. I kept it for the fact I did like 484 damage, which I felt was quite good in that build, considering it's a very eclectic build. It doesn't really have any clear focus on what it wants to be. Does it want to be a brawler? Does it want to be a support mech? Does it want to be a flanker? It's got all those options due to its combination of speed and odd weapon sets, but you know it's not gonna like out brawl anything, unfortunately, because it works better as part of a star, obviously, and that's what that was another consideration with a lot of these stock builds, and why in MWO it's usually a very singular experience, at least in the solo queue. It's like you want your build to work for you and not to help the team, essentially. You want to rack up damage and kills. So that was that, and yeah, that's how it should end. You know, on top of your head with your legs stuck in the air, looking really bizarre. Because why the hell not? And that was the Gargoyle. It was the only version that you could build, unfortunately. I would love to have done another Gargoyle, but yeah, that was it. But still, there we go. That's the Gargoyle, the first of the Clank assaults done. And thanks for joining me, everyone. I hope you have a good week. See you next time. Bye bye.